Hey, thanks for joining me today here at Cedar Creek Homestead for Porch Talk, and I hope you're having a wonderful and blessed day. And I wanted to follow up on a little subject that we've been talking about some here lately. It seems like been geared to food, and it's getting it's getting close to fall and winter. And it's a time that we start really thinking about our food preps and food preparation. But in doing so, there's been a lot of talk about food shortages, and I've had a couple of videos about the food shortages. But something that I've been paying attention to lately and concerning me is what would cause one of our next food shortages, and something that I have been thinking on a lot here lately. And it's really it has nothing to do with weather. It has nothing to do with they say we're having a solar minimum coming. I'm not talking about that. Some say global warming. Whatever the case is, what you think's going to cause food shortages, this probably has nothing to do with any of that. Although all of those things, should they happen, could cause food shortages. Probably come this fall, the commodity prices as far as wheat and corn and soybeans and some of that, especially wheat and corn, could possibly go up, because when they get everything harvested and totaled, there may be somewhat of a shortage of that. And their government's already saying there is going to be less amount than what we had several years ago. But we've been running in a surplus, and a lot of the farmers here still have their bins full of food from last year, or grain and stuff. So anyway, I'm not really going to talk on that as much as this very, very subject. The next food shortage, I believe, will have to do because of money. And I'll explain myself here in just a little bit, but the Bible says over in Revelations that there would be a time that there'd be famine, basically, and that they say by what it says it would cost for a loaf of bread, that it would take a day's wage. So if you figure, let's just say you're a worker, you work out and you get $10 an hour, and you work 10 hours a day, that's $80. And it cost you $80, a whole day's wage for one loaf of bread. And this isn't a preaching sermon, but the Bible talks about this. But my thought has been, when it regards to money, that food will get so expensive, you won't be able to buy it. And I'll explain to you some of my reasoning why I think that could very well be. Over here in the river bottoms, they sold some land over there, and it was around 400 acres from my understanding. They farmed it for years, and a guy he's in his 80s and has leased that land for many, many years. The original owners had made him an agreement that they would sell him that land should they ever sell out. Well, they died, and their heirs inherited the land. So he told them, he said, hey, I want that land. They said, well, if we decide to sell, we'll sell it to you. Otherwise, we'll just stay on the same agreement. So he had put pivot irrigation, drainage tiles, all the modern day farming practices in there, and it's very good fertile soil along the Arkansas River. And he's got access to water to irrigate it and all the good things that you would need. And they every year do pretty good crops there. In fact, this year, part of it got flooded in the floods. But anyway, he went on there and had it a year or two. And somehow they found out that it was for sale. It was going to be an online sale for this property. Actually, how they found out, they put a sign up along the property and said it was for sale, and so they was going to be on online auction. So the man, when he found out about it, him and his son's probably 60 or more, they flew down to where these people lived and talked to them and said, hey, your parents your ancestors have promised us this land all these years, and we're willing to buy it. And he offered him $1.2 million for 400 acres. To me, that is outrageous amount of money to pay for land. I don't know how you would ever come back on it, but evidently he must have thought he would, and he wouldn't because he's in his 80s, but probably thought his son and grandchildren would come out with it, and he had the money supposedly to buy it. So anyway, they said, no, we've already set up with this online sale, and it's going to be sold through that. So he had no choice but to wait for that, and he was willing to bid up to $1.2 million. But it went for like $20 million for 400 acres of land. And of course, he was like, no way was he going to pay. I guess probably didn't have that kind of money, or couldn't even get a loan on that kind of money. So he just gave up on it and said, well, we can't do it. We won't get that land. We'll be done with it. Well, lo and behold, the people who bought it have nothing to do with farming. They just bought it as an investment. And I've not heard where they live at in the United States, but it's not around here. It's California, Florida, or somewhere that they live. And they got in contact with him and told him, said, the same arrangements you've had with the previous owners, we want to keep that with you. Now, they'll never ever, no way can they even come close to paying for the land off of what he's giving them. There's no way. Most of them around here, what they'll do is give you part of the crop, part of the profit off the crop. If it makes 150 bushels to the acre of corn, and corn's bringing $4 a bushel, you get a percentage of that. They have ways that they work that out. Some just rent it by the acre every year, and whether it makes or not, there's different ways. I know a lady that's got some land over here that she gets a percentage of it, so she has to wait till they sell their crops to see if she gets any money every year. But anyhow, with that kind of money, folks, and I've been told that there's another man buying river bottom land all up and down the Arkansas River where we are at. You can hear a lot of things. This other thing about this land was first-hand information. This about this man buying up river bottom land, and I know he owns a bunch around here. They say if any comes up, he gives them, 10, 15,000 an acre with no trouble, and he just subleases it back out. But it's because they know there's going to be a shortage of land one of these days, and I believe that those that are in the know realize we're going to be short on food, and to ever pay for that land, they're either going to have to do development and build big homes, or they're going to have to raise a lot of crops, or food prices are going to have to go out the roof. And I think one of these days, because they're not making any more land, I'm going to tell you one more quick story here. A friend of mine owned about 100 acres up in Arkansas in a little town there. And he had a few cows, like 20 cows and a bull. I've heard several of these stories. In fact, I could tell you several of this same little area. Well, it's growing. The property, the community, that area is really growing. People are moving in from all over and stuff, and so they've built big housing additions all the way around him. Well, one day they come to his house and they said, hey, we would like to buy an acre or two of land down here next to the highway, and wondered if you would sell it. And he said, no, I don't want it. He ain't really happy now because there's big houses all the way around his property. And, he's worried if a cow gets out. Used to, if it got out, it would have got out on a neighbor, that kind of stuff. Well, now it would get out in someone's manicured lawn. So, but anyway, he wasn't real happy about that. Had a little old house, had it all paid for, was doing very well there. But he said, no, I'm not interested. He said, the only way I'd sell any of my property is somebody had to buy the whole 100 acres from me. And it's a big, long, rectangle piece of property, flat, really good land. But he just raised cattle. And they said, well, how much would you have to have? And he said he just come up with off the top of his head. He said, I'd have to have $45,000 an acre. And the guy paid $400 an acre when he bought it. And he just said, that just come to my mind. I just threw it out there. They said, oh, no, there's no way we'd ever pay that. Forget it, and they went on. So he said, that's enough of that. He said, I guess I'll be living here the rest of my life, whatever, that's fine. Well, a month or two went by, and a big car pulled up, and some guys in suits got out and come up to the door and talked to him and said, you had said you'd take $45,000 an acre for your land, and we're here to pay you that today if that still stands. And he said, $45,000 an acre. He said, of course, And so they gave him a year or 2 years. There was a certain amount of time that he could still live in his home. He had to sell his cows off because they started tearing the fences down and doing some things. And after he moved out, finally he bought him another place, had a home built, and moved way off so he could kind of be a homesteader type person. But it's a private homesteading type deal without big homes, because that's what he originally bought that property there for, to be away from, it was country when he bought it, but now it's all developed, and now there's big homes all on that. And so he never knew what it was to be rich, and now he's got money and he's invested it and doing very well on it. And I've known another couple, that elderly couple, that was the same way. They got offered a big amount not very far from him, and they sold their property. Well, all that now is big houses, just tract houses. They're big, fancy. They might have an acre or two with them, but they're worth $500,000 homes. Here, in another state, they might be $1 million or $2 million homes. But the point that I'm getting at is that land that's being taken up will never grow crops again. That's over with. Never run cattle again. Can't be a poultry farm. Can't be a hog farm. Can't be a cattle farm. Can't be a dairy. It can't grow green beans and that type of stuff. Never again. So I believe the next shortage will be because the food prices will be so high because there's so little land, and it'll probably be controlled mostly by those that have the money to buy up the land. But as far as food shortages go, this week I went to Walmart with my wife. I hardly ever go to Walmart. I go 2 or 3 times a year to Walmart now. And I love going to Tractor Supply. I love going to Atwood's, Orsolan's, those farm stores, but I just really don't like going to Walmart no more. And used to I did, but Walmart here, we've got one about 20 miles away and one about 30 miles away. And the bigger Walmart that's about 30 miles away, my wife, I told her, I said, I'll go with you this week. You're going to buy groceries. And she's been telling me about the signs up at Walmart that says that there is a shortage of canned foods. So that's been concerning me, as well as I know it's been concerning you all. So I went up there to look for myself. Well, this week, the signs were still there at the Walmart, the big Walmart that's about 30 miles away from here in Muskogee, Oklahoma. It was, the shelves were full. There was some of the corn was a little bit low, and I've understood that one of the corns that have peppers in it or something, there's been a recall, and I noticed there wasn't any of that there at that particular Walmart. It could be that they've gotten some in and people love that with the pepper in it, that is going. We don't eat that, and so I don't know about that part. I couldn't preach to that, but anyway, I noticed it was all full, and I even did a little video. I don't know if I'll add it in here or not. If you see a clip here, it'll be because I've added it in. But anyway, I was like, this thing's full, and their signs are still up, but it's past the date, they said, and there's plenty of food. My sister was concerned because some of the stores had ran out of sugar around here, but now up there the shelves are full. There was really, I couldn't see anything that they were short of. So it was a temporary shortage, whatever caused it. Now there's some things going on, but I was going to show out one thing here. I love this veg all, and it says Allen's here, and I like the home style for stew. And today I had homemade stew. My wife don't care for stew. I don't do a lot of cooking, but I do make the stew, and when I do, I put a can of this here with this home style vegetables in it. Now if you got canned stuff, home canned, and I did have a lot of home canned stuff, so we added that in there, like tomatoes, and my wife had home canned carrots. This has a lot of carrots, but I love carrots in the stew. I added some of that, and stuff that she makes, that we can out of our own garden. We love to put in there, but I do usually put 1 can of this in. And anyway, but I had noticed there says Allen's. It says it's made, I think, in South Carolina. Didn't bring my glasses out here, so I can't read this little fine print. But anyhow, I think they had it's either 4 or 6 cans of this. I think there's 4 cans. Is all they had of it at Walmart. Now that was kind of shortage of this stuff. I don't know if you can show labels on YouTube or not. I suppose you can, but I love this, so be a little advertisement for this company. They want to sponsor me if they want to send me some cans of this. But it says Allen's. But we used to have an Allen's canning company over here in Springdale, Arkansas. And I met the man who owned that years ago, and he had told me a funny little story where he lived at. You went across some cattle guards to get back in where he lived, and he said, I had hauled hay as a boy off of this property, and I told him when we were hauling hay that I was going to own this place one of these days, and he said they just laughed at me, but he said now I own it. But they have sold out that particular Allen's. They used to make Popeye spinach, and they make canned green beans and stuff like that, and they've sold that place out to, I think it's Del Monte, I had read, but there's still a Allen's, and this may have been a whole different Allen's than that, or this might be part of their family, but it's not in Arkansas no more. I'm going to see if I can, it's in Effingham, South Carolina, and it says Cedar Creek Foods Incorporated. So anyway, they evidently have sold out part of it, or maybe it's a whole different deal. I'm not sure about that. I went online trying to figure it out, and there ain't a whole lot of news except for what I see in Springdale, Arkansas. That Allen's was sold out to, it looks like, to Del Monte. So, but anyway, that cannery too, where they canned food out there, it appears that it's shut down in Springdale, Arkansas, and there appears to be a lot of the canneries are closing. And I read where 4, I believe it is, of Del Monte is closing 4 of their canned good factories. And the reason for that is the lack of business. I don't think people are cooking like they used to did. And they're not selling as much green beans and corn and stuff in cans as what they used to sell. So people, there is another thing with money. They're going back to the money. What's going to make you money? Why would you have a factory and sell cans of green beans and corn if you weren't going to make a profit off of it? If it was ever a sign for folks to get back and can some of your own stuff, it seems like there's a lot more farmers markets around here nowadays, and a lot more people that are raising like patch farming, where they'll have a little acre or two, and maybe you can come and pick blueberries, or they have tomatoes or whatever, and they'll sell them around to the local stores, or you can come by their home. There's a man across the river over here for several years now has grown a big old tomato patch, and he's on disability, but him and his wife, they get out there, both of them's crippled up pretty bad, and they're in their 60s, but they appear to, I think they look like they're in their 60s. They may be older than that, but they get out and pick those tomatoes, and people come to their home, and he says that he sells all the tomatoes he can get, and he's way out in the country. But people come and buy them, and they can them and stuff, and make salsa and things with them, people that don't grow gardens. But it seems like there's becoming a big move in that, and I've talked to several people here locally that don't grow gardens anymore, but they go to little markets, stands and stuff that there is around the area, and they'll buy their green beans and corn and stuff, and they still can and put up stuff, but they just don't grow them a garden. They've gotten old, or they live in an apartment or something and can't, so they're still preserving their food, but they're slowing down. And one elderly couple told me that they thought would be their last year to can green beans and stuff like that, and they were just going to start buying them already canned. But it appears, from what I see in the market journals and stuff, that there is less demand for the things like green beans and corn and stuff like that. But I don't believe it's because so many people's growing their own, although there is a lot of people doing that, and I think more than there used to be. There's starting to be more now. You know, for years people did it, and then they kind of died off. Now we're getting the homesteading type movement and prepping movement, and a lot of people are back into that. But anyway, if I was a farmer and I have this outrageous property, I'm going to grow what's going to make money. And corn, they say corn is king, field corn. Now you can eat field corn when it's before it dries out, and they're harvesting corn over here right now, and it's pretty well dried. They're picking it early and go ahead and harvest it because they had a window of drier weather. Now we got, as of last night, the last 24 hours, we've had over 6 inches of rain right here at our place. This is the end of August, and we've had 6 inches. We're getting close to the end of August, and we've had over 6 inches of rain for August. And it's actually a cooler day today. I mean, it's warm, but it's not. This is very nice compared to what we have been having. But they're about to get the corn over there. They put it in dryers to dry it down. But before they do that, you can actually eat that off the cob. And there's people around here that prefer to eat field corn. And some of the farmers around here, if you want to get you some ears to eat before it gets dried out, before long it'll get dried out and it just falls down and points down, the cobs will. But before they do that, you can get that and eat it, and some prefer it over that. And there's farmers here that actually just give it to you. And over here on the river, they used to laugh about it, but they said they planted the first 6 or 7 rows of that corn for fishermen and thieves. And so anyway, they would grow it over there. But you know, if I was a farmer, or I'm a rancher and I got cattle and I'm growing grass here, but it was a crop farmer, used to Allen's Cannon would come over here and they would plant green beans and spinach and stuff like that, and they would have people, they would actually harvest it themselves. They had their crews would come and watch it, and they would grow it on your land, and you just kind of had to irrigate it and take care of it. And there was a bunch of that going on, and there's none of that. I haven't seen any of those trucks around here. It appears that that's all went by the wayside. But if you take your land and you say, I could lease it to Del Monte for so much, and I can make $5 an acre off of it, or I can lease it, grow my own corn, field corn, you know, and they're into this GMO corn, you know, and they spray it with Roundup, and there's a system in place that they got it down pat. And you know, I know that's all chemicals and we hate to see them use it, but if they didn't use GMO corn and Roundup and all that, folks, the world would starve to death. We got to have it. That's just the fact of the matter is we're in modern times. I'll do a video on that sometime and give my full opinion on it. I don't like it. I don't think it's really good for us. There's people that are trying to, and that's another reason to grow your own so you don't have to do the GMO. But if you buy something from the store, I really feel like at most stores, like at Walmart, some of the stuff there, I was like, I guarantee you, even though it says non-GMO, there's some GMO gets in some of that stuff. And I just think unless you grow it your own, you're probably the only way you're going to get GMO-free and stuff that hasn't been sprayed with Roundup and things like, even sweet corn now. They have GMO sweet corn that you can get, and you can spray that stuff with Roundup and it won't kill it. They're growing it over here. I would usually do it. All got flooded this year, but they grow it over here in the bottoms, and I was like, everything's going GMO, and the more reason to grow your own, if there ever was for this cause. But anyway, if I was given a choice to grow corn or green beans or something, and corn's going to make me a lot of money, I would grow corn. I'll tell you something else, and I don't like this. I have farmers that are friends, and if you're a farmer, you're a crop farmer, I do not mean this personally against you, but I just do not think we should grow corn and turn it into fuel. This ethanol thing, the government subsidizes it and all that stuff that goes on, and when we are using our food supply to fuel our cars, you know, when we got plenty of oil, there's oil. They're doing this fracking here in Oklahoma. The oil boom all over the United States just went crazy. I know we may run out one of these days, but surely there's something else we could do to fuel vehicles rather than use our food supply. But when we use our food supply for our fuel, that's going to drive the prices up. And if there ever is a fuel supply shortage, and they need to make more into ethanol, you know, I know it's kind of a security thing perhaps, military security or whatever. That way we have fuel. But if they ever start doing that, corn is fed to so many of the beef animals and used in so many things, and corn oils and corn syrups and all that bad stuff for you, but it's used everywhere. We would be in trouble, folks. And I just have a problem when we use it for our fuel supply. And there's arguments right now, fights going on because some companies aren't using all of the corn they're supposed to be using and all that stuff. And I just noticed that my gallus here is upside down, so I'll spin that around there. Hey, anyway, I've rambled on here today quite a bit, but our food supply is, it's just an amount of money. The Bible says love of money is the root of all evil. And I'm not saying it's evil to want to be profitable. And if you're not profitable, if you're a farmer and you're not making a profit, you will go broke. I mean, I don't care what kind of business. I have a heating and air and appliance repair business, and I have to make a profit. There's people that think you're evil if you try to make a profit. But if I lose money, I am not financially well enough that I can lose money every year. If I lost money one year, and I've never lost money in the last 10 or 12 years, I've done fine. I'm not saying that, but there, I look at my financials at the end of the year, and if I haven't made a profit, it depends on what you call a profit, but if I'm not in the black, if I was to be in the red, I would reevaluate my financial situation and do something different. It's the same with raising cattle. Cattle's getting to be closer and closer on, and this year I'm going to really watch it. But if it gets to where I can't pay for their feed and make a little profit off of the cows, I will have to totally reevaluate what I'm doing with the cattle. And if that means getting out of the business, I'm not saying I'm getting out. I'm just telling you I would have to look at it strongly. If there was something else I could grow here and make more money, if I could grow sheep here and make more money than I do off the cattle, I'd turn this into a sheep farm. If I could grow green beans here and make more money, I would do that. Some folks, I heard of a man that turned a couple of acres into blackberries and makes like $45,000 a year off of blackberries, and a lot more money than he ever made off of the cattle. So, but anyway, I'm not having no intentions of doing that, but I'm just saying I would have to do what would be enough to at least turn a profit. I know some want to get rich and rip people off and all that stuff, but I just want to make a profit. I want to make a decent living. I want to come home at night, lay my head down on my pillow, and feel that I've treated everybody fairly and squarely and done what was right. And I do that. I come home, lay my head down on my pillow, and I know if I don't wake up in the morning here, I'm going to wake up there, and that gives me peace of mind that passes all understanding. And I can't get past that, and I love that, and I'd rather have that than all the money in the world. But sadly, today, I think it's getting down to the almighty dollar. It's always been around the dollar, but it's getting harder, and the bigger companies are buying up the land, and bigger companies are controlling the seeds and the feed supplies. Now they patent the seeds, these GMO seeds and things, and there's big money in that. And but if they're trying to squeeze out, I feel like, the little producers. And but I have read that the past few years, and the USDA gives out numbers, and their numbers show less and less of the consumer vegetables and things such as dried beans, green beans, sweet corn and stuff. There is less demand, and there's less being grown because of it. And the thing I think might be less demand is these younger ones don't even know how to operate a can opener. I think some of them don't even know it. So they probably, if it's not through a drive-through window, they don't know. We got young people today that think eggs come from the store. I seen a ladies doing this interview and asking these young people, college kids, where stuff come from, and he's like, well, it comes from the store. No, it don't. An egg comes from the chicken. Beef comes from a cow, milk comes from a cow, pork comes from a hog, and it comes from a farm that is being ran by a farmer. So anyway, I've rambled on today. I sure appreciate you watching today. If you will watch tonight at 8 o'clock, this airs at 7 o'clock, my Porch Talk does every Tuesday night, and tonight, this very night, You may be listening to this at a later date than today, but this Tuesday night at 8 o'clock will be our announcement for our winner of our gift card giveaway from last week. If you commented on a video, any of our videos we did last week where you're entered into a drawing, and we're using that randomizer to draw one winner from each video from last week, and then we'll be giving out that tonight at 8 o'clock. I'll have a special video that will air, a little short video that will announce the winner of this week's giveaway, and for our 1,000 sub giveaway. And I'll tell you, it wouldn't have been possible if it hadn't been for viewers like you. And if you would subscribe to our channel, it will really help us. If you want us to continue to do videos, subscribe to the channel. It don't cost you a dime. I have started allowing them to do videos because it said we were eligible. I said, not videos, but to do advertisements. I'm sorry for that, but I thought if we made a little bit of money, I could buy a newer and better camera. One of these days, I don't think you're going to get rich off of YouTube, but it would help out a little bit, a few of the expenses, the cameras and all the things do cost a little money, and I've been adding a few little things here and there, and it gets to adding up. And I thought, well, if I got a little money from YouTube and it didn't cost nobody nothing as far as me or you, well, hey, that's a good thing. And so it just cost us our time. But if you like our videos, give us a thumbs up, comment down in the bottom. And our next giveaway, I'm looking forward to giving away at the 5,000 subs. And I think as of the video today, I think we're over 1,200 subscribers. So hey, praise the Lord for that, and we're looking forward to getting up there at 5,000 and giving away, and then whatever else, whatever God's will is. But we sure appreciate you watching and giving us your time and attention today. I hope this will encourage you somehow and let you understand what I think's coming one day. So it'd be a good time to learn to prepare our own food and to get prepared for the future, because I think in the future already people are talking about having trouble financially buying food. And if that's the case, think what it'll be in another 5 to 10 years. And today would be the time to get the skills and the knowledge and begin to grow our own food or buy food from others that we can put up and preserve ourselves, so we'll be prepared in the future. Hey, thanks for watching. God bless you. We'll see you next week here at Porch Talk.